Well, thank you everyone for having me here today. I am so excited to join you because the last time I was here, I was actually here to cover this event because I started out my career as a journalist. I was a news anchor for WISN TV, which is right down the street here in Milwaukee. And after I got done with anchoring my morning news show, I came down here and I watched them insert those triers into the cheese. And my deepest concern at that moment was not what was in the triers, but what was going to happen to the rest of the cheese, and could I try some? I know what you do every day is not just to make our lives tastier and help us to enjoy our dinners more, but also what you do every day employs Wisconsin, employs Americans. And so I say thank you for employing folks. Thank you for being job creators and business owners. And also thank you for making dinner and lunch nice and tasty. I'm about to introduce you to someone who is a friend of mine and also a friend of yours, someone who I met, actually, when I was a reporter. He was one of my very best sources at the state capitol when he was in the Wisconsin State Assembly. He is a true cheesehead, because every day for lunch, he enjoys some of your products on his sandwich. And that's what he has for lunch every single day. He'll tell you that. Ladies and gentlemen, the great governor of the state of Wisconsin, Scott Walker.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Yeah, the Lieutenant Governor's right. In fact, when I was running years ago as county executive, she did a story, and they wanted to get beyond just who the person was, just on policies, and found out that that time that for the past, I think, 25 years now, I've had the same sandwich. Ben saw me eating it on the airplane. It's rude. I ate it in front of Ben because I don't know when I get a chance to eat, because this is my third stop in Milwaukee today, and I've been up west of Eau Claire, and I was in Madison, and I'll be in Green Bay and back in Milwaukee after this. So it's one of those crazy days. Tommy Thompson once told me, don't ever walk past a bathroom and eat when you can. And so I do that all the time because you never know when your next stop's going to be. But Rebecca's right. I eat 2 ham and cheese sandwiches every day. I say I get just in my drinks alone, I get in all the major food groups in Wisconsin. I have milk for breakfast. I have cranberry juice along with my ham and cheese sandwich for lunch. And then if it's a really tough day, I probably have a Leinenkugel Honey Weiss or a Miller Lite or something like that at the end of the day, but I get all the food groups covered. But it is great to be back and great to be introduced by Rebecca Clayfish, who's just done a phenomenal job, particularly advocating for small business growth here in the state of Wisconsin. I appreciate her leadership and not only being here today, but all that she does around the state. And I'm honored to be joined today by Ben Bransell, who I served with years ago in the State Assembly, who did a tremendous job under Governor Thompson as secretary over at DADCAP, and who I was just so honored to have come back and help lead the Department of Agriculture, Trade, and Consumer Protection, and really hope that you all have seen, I think from the stakeholders I've talked to, that Ben is just doing a tremendous, tremendous job. And Ben, I appreciate your leadership as well. You know, since this is an international expo on cheese technology, I want to first off say to everybody who's from Wisconsin, hello, it's good to see fellow neighbors. To everyone from across the Midwest, from around the country, and to those from outside of our borders, welcome. We're glad to have you in Wisconsin, because we know what it takes not only to have cheese and eat cheese, but how to do it better than anybody else in the world. And if you want to do it as well as we do, you're at the right place, because we can tell you how to do it. This is a... I also want to begin, and it was appropriate just after hearing your announcement just a few moments ago, to say thank you. Thank you for the commitment from the Wisconsin Cheesemakers Association in particular to step up and partner with us because you've got a great opportunity, and the state's going to step up and help match that commitment as well. It's something that Secretary Bransell reached out to last fall on my behalf, but something we're committed to following through with the University of Wisconsin, the system as a whole, with the Building Commission, with the state budget process, with the cheesemakers and others in the dairy industry, because we know for more than 60 years you've had just a tremendous advocate for the dairy industry when it comes to Babcock Hall. We want to make sure that we're able to renovate and really move forward into the 21st century. That, combined with the great work of the Wisconsin Center for Dairy Research and the ongoing work and commitment that does to help the industry, not only for cheesemakers, but to help in the dairy industry as a whole. We want to continue to be at the cutting edge because we understand that we're a world leader in large part, not just because we've got great people, we've got great venues, we've got great cheesemakers, because we have some of the best technology in the world. And if we're going to continue to be out front leading the pack with every year, this year again having 30 more gold medals, to do that, we've got to make sure that we have the best technology, and you have our commitment. I appreciate your willingness to partner, not just for the financial commitment, but I think in a way what that does is it says that is a worthy investment for the taxpayers of the state of Wisconsin to match that, because the people who know it best in the industry are stepping up to help make that commitment as well. It's one of those things where along the way, I've got 2 high school sons, and Matt and Alex, and a lot of times when they want to get things, I ask them to pitch in a portion as well, because I know they don't take it for granted when there's an investment made. And so I appreciate the investment that you're making in making sure that we have 60 more years and that we have great research and technology innovations for years, if not generations to come. This is an interesting time when you think about it when it comes to cheese making in the dairy industry. I started out this morning. Ben was with me. One of the stops I made after I left here early this morning out of the Milwaukee area was up to the 5-Star Dairy up in Elkmount, just west of Eau Claire. We signed a number of pieces of legislation that were focused not just on dairy and cheese, but just in general on trying to help those involved in agribusiness here in the state of Wisconsin. And we did it outside of the Capitol because we wanted to make a commitment that we understand that agriculture as a whole in our state is one of our top industries. I mean, literally, you look at manufacturing, agriculture, it's the top 2 major industries in the state. $59 billion economic impact overall from agriculture. About half of that, close to half of that, 26, I should say, and a $500 million impact in the dairy industry alone. And cheesemakers are helping us lead the way in that regard. So we understand the commitment. We understand that's something that hasn't happened overnight, but we want to continue to see it grow and expand and be a vital part of our state's economy and really have an impact on a global basis. We think about the numbers out there. You've heard them all before, but when you think about the fact that in this state alone, not just on those numbers in terms of economic impact, but we've got 11,000 licensed dairy herds, 1.27 million cows in this state, and a tremendous opportunity to grow in that regard, which I'm going to talk about in a moment at the end here. On top of that, when it comes to not just dairy but cheese making, certainly the fact that you think about it, just a couple years ago in 2010, we had 2.6 billion pounds of cheese in the state from the 1,200 so licensed cheesemakers all across the state of Wisconsin, the only state that has a master cheesemaker program. We should be proud about that and the fact that we do it better than the others. And as I mentioned, we've got the gold medals to prove that. We also have a tremendous opportunity to grow. And I know that's part of the reason why we've got people from outside of our state line, outside of the Midwest, and even outside of our country here, because people look to Wisconsin to see how to grow in dairy and in cheese making in particular. And we have a tremendous opportunity. Think about it. 96% of the world's population, about 2/3 of the purchasing power in this entire globe is outside of the United States. We have a rich opportunity to grow and expand and put more people to work here in this state and in this industry by taking advantage of the partnerships we can build with others across the globe. Last year alone, we saw agricultural-based exports in our state go up to $2.85 billion. That was an 18% increase when it comes to agricultural-based exports. That's a tremendous opportunity for us in a whole spectrum of areas. But to me, that suggests that there's great, ripe opportunity for us to grow and expand, not just the markets here in Wisconsin, around the country, but certainly in other countries around the globe. It's why not too long ago, Ben went over to Vietnam to start building. We've already got partnerships, obviously, with China and Mexico, Germany, Japan, places like that. But in Vietnam, Southeastern Asia, and places like that, they're hungry for the opportunity. Literally, not just hungry for economic growth, but they're hungry for the products that we have available and hungry for the opportunity to take the expertise and technology that we can provide here, the great partnership we have between academic research and development and the practical application right out in our forums and in our cheese-making facilities and producers all across the state. We have a tremendous opportunity to build off of that and expand our economic growth and prosperity, not only here but around the globe. And we do that, that's going to help put more people to work in Wisconsin. We're absolutely thrilled about that. So exports are another great opportunity for us. But for us, one of the biggest things we need to do, one of the things you know firsthand as cheesemakers, is we've got to expand the amount of milk that we have available here in the state of Wisconsin. Now, last year, when we got up in terms of milk, we had more than 26 billion pounds of milk in the state of Wisconsin. That was up about 1% from the year before. And yet, we only provide about 90% of all the milk that you need when it comes to cheese making comes from Wisconsin. That means there's 10% that's coming from somewhere else. And on top of that, we were talking to a number of us even on the way in, there's a lot of folks who are feeling good about where things are when it comes to cheese in this state. But you're feeling so good, one of the downsides to that is you could do a whole lot better if you had enough milk, enough product to take your market even further. And so we've set out an ambitious goal. Early this past year, Ben went out and worked with really stakeholders from all across the state. Spent a lot of time listening and focusing in, and we put together a program called 30 by 20. What we're looking to do is by the year 2020, and to really work on pushing it now, not just by 2020 itself, but between now and 2020, push to the point where we have more than 30 billion pounds of milk available here in the state of Wisconsin, so we don't have to import milk from anywhere else to keep up with the demand for cheese and other products here in the state, that we can keep it within state and lead the country and lead the world in production out there. When you think about it, with more than 26% of all the cheese made in America made right here in Wisconsin, with almost half of all the specialty cheese in America made in Wisconsin, we have a rich opportunity to grow, but we got to make sure we have enough milk to keep up with the pace. And so for us, we're putting in place an aggressive program, a program that's not solely about government driving it. It's about government playing a role as a partner, but it's really about partnering with all the different entities, not only cheesemakers, but the Dairy Business Association, the Farm Bureau, our co-ops, you name it across the board. Ben has brought those people in to say that as an industry, we need to tackle this challenge. We need to get out front of it. We need to be aggressive about it. If you haven't heard all the details about it, in fact, I wrote this down so I wouldn't say it wrong, because my kids always tell me, you got to make sure you don't say those websites wrong, right? It's kind of like when I talk about repeating things over and over and over again. I said, well, I repeat it so many times, I sound like a broken record. And I got 2 high school sons, and they say, Dad, nobody knows what a record is anymore. So I sound like a repeating iPod or a scratch CD or something like that. But the website is growwisconsindairy.wi.gov. Not .com or .org. It's growwisconsindairy.wi.gov. If you don't remember anything else from what I've said, go and remember, write that down and go to that website. growwisconsindairy.wi.gov. Or if you're not into the internet, I said we've got a toll-free number as well, 1-855-WI-DAIRY. 855-WI-DAIRY. I sound like the Jerry Lewis Telethon. I'll give out the numbers again out there, but for us it's important because our goal is not just to help one size farm grow, it's to help everybody who wants to grow in the state of Wisconsin. Anybody who wants to milk more dairy cows, anybody who wants to milk more cows and help us produce more product in the state of Wisconsin, whether you want to be a small family farm, whether you want to be a mid-sized farm, or you want to be a larger farm, we want to help everybody grow. We're not picking winners and losers in that. We understand that there's a place and a time and an opportunity for just about everybody. Whether you want to be, whether you want to graze, or whether you want to operate in a larger operation than that, we're going to help you out no matter what. But we understand that we've got a tremendous opportunity to put more people to work in this state, to grow more opportunity, to produce more cheese, to feed more people, to create more championship cheeses in this state. But we've got to have enough product to make that happen. And so we're committed with this 30 by 20 program to be a partner with you, the cheesemakers in Wisconsin, and for others who want to partner with us from around the country, but particularly here in this state. We understand how vitally important it is for us to play a leadership role to get out in front of that, to put out an ambitious goal to move our state forward. So we're excited about that for the future. The last thing I just want to say is not just specific to the industry, but overall to tell you about where I think we're headed in this state. Now, a few years ago, before I took office in 2008, 2009, and 2010, see, Wisconsin had lost about 150,000 private sector jobs. In fact, at the peak of that loss, we had an unemployment rate that was well over 9%. So we had some real challenges. I remember coming in last year thinking, we couldn't wait. Any of you who've taken over an operation or a business understand that if you've got a business that's in trouble, you don't wait a year or 6 months or even a month. You start acting on it right away. And we knew that Wisconsin couldn't wait. So we acted on it right away. We lowered the tax burden for people like you, job creators in the state. We put in place incentives not only overall on taxes, but in things like property taxes, because we know when it comes to folks in agribusiness what a tremendous impact property taxes have. For the first time after years of multi-$100 million increases in property taxes statewide, school tax levies went down $47 million last year. We understand if we put more money back in your pockets, you're going to turn around and reinvest that in technology and innovation. It's going to help you grow and expand your operations and put more people to work. We also understand, though, it's more than just taxes. We expanded things, so we took out an agenda that was ultimately pro-job about saying, you know what, when it comes to regulations in this state, we should streamline the process. So what we enforce is about common sense, not about excessive government tape, but regulation out there. And so we want public safety and public health, but we think there's a reasonable way to get there that's science-based and predictable. Not just in DADCAP, but in agencies like the DNR and others. We understand that if we have that mindset that you're our partner, not someone to get in the way of, but our partner, that you'll expand and put more people to work in this state. We looked at the out-of-control cost of dealing with frivolous lawsuits, particularly not only in cheese making, but for others in the agricultural world when it came to nuisance lawsuits against farmers out there. And we said, we got to rein that in as well, because out-of-control lawsuits are standing in the way of economic growth and prosperity. We even did things as simple as getting rid of the state tax on health savings accounts so that individual employers, workers, small businesses, family farmers, and others could have one more option tax-free, providing affordable health care options for ourselves, for our families, and for those people we employ. We did all those things right away because Wisconsin couldn't wait. We couldn't wait for a year or two down the road to put together a plan and a blue ribbon commission. We needed people to act on it right away. And the good news is it's working. We've got a long ways to go. We're not done yet, but look at it. After you losing 150,000 private sector jobs in the past, in the first 2 months of this year alone, in January and February of 2012, we've seen the creation of more than 17,000 private sector jobs. Think about that. Our unemployment rate right now is below 7% for the first time since 2008. That's a stark contrast to our neighbors to the south in Illinois. They took a very different approach. They made it more difficult to do business in their state. They raised taxes on individuals and businesses, and instead of fixing their budget, they only made it worse. They've had to cut back on Medicaid and lay off people and close down more state facilities, and they've got an unemployment rate that's well over 9% right now. Ours is below 7%. Sure, we made some tough choices along the way, but in the end, it's turning us around. It's pushing us in the right direction. Together, we're going to move this state forward. That's what this is really all about. And so I just appreciate it. I appreciate the opportunity to share with you. Along the way, too, we made some tough decisions about the budget. But for us, those decisions have paid off as well, and in that we don't have the kind of budget problems we have in other states. We didn't raise taxes, which would hurt the economy. We didn't lay off thousands of public employees. We didn't cut things like Medicaid. In fact, we added money to Medicaid to fund programs like Badger Care, Family Care in our state. We ultimately made decisions that thought more about the next generation than they do about the next election. And that's really what it's all about. Now, sometimes I get people who say to me, Governor, where did you get the courage to take on these challenges? I said it's real simple. You see, the courage that Tonette and I talk about is not unique to the two of us. It may be unique in politics, but every day I travel the state. And every day I see moms and dads who wake up all across Wisconsin, who go off to farms and go off to plants and factories and small businesses all around the state. And every day they go off to work just like we do, just like you do. We go not just to get a paycheck, not just to put food on the table or clothes on the back of our children. Ultimately, the reason so many of us go off to work, it's moms and dads and grandmas and grandfathers, the ultimate reason we go off to work is because we want our children to have a better life than we did. It's ultimately what it's all about. People ask me, why did you do what you did last year? I said, it's real simple. It's real simple. It's not based on some group or organization or some political cause. It's based on two simple words. Matt and Alex. Those are my two sons, my junior and senior in high school. I look at them and I want them to inherit a state a state even greater than the one I inherited. I want them to grow up in a Wisconsin where they don't have the kind of debt that we inherited last year when we came into office. I want them to grow up in a state where in a couple of years after they're out of school, there's an opportunity for them to have a job, and a good paying job, that if they work hard and they study and they focus their attention and they take a little bit of risk, there's going to be an opportunity for them to stay here in Wisconsin. And someday maybe for me to have some grandkids who will be here in the state of Wisconsin. That's what this is all about. For us, that may be courageous in politics, but ultimately, that's what I think every one of us wishes, not just for my children and your children, but for all the children and grandchildren in the state. It's a state that's a little bit better than the one that we inherited. That's what this is all about. I want to thank you for the opportunity to come by today. I want to thank you not just for listening to me, but I want to thank you because your industry is at the forefront of helping not just have up until this point built Wisconsin's economy, but I fundamentally believe that your industry that's going to be at the forefront of getting us out of this recession, moving the state forward, and helping Wisconsin to be one of the greatest states in the country when it comes to economic recovery. You know, our founders, let me just end with this and then let you get back to business. But last January, when I took the oath of office, I moved the swearing-in ceremony from where it normally was in the East Wing. I moved it around one section. And I stood in front of the state constitution. And the reason I did that was, for those of us who love history, you might know this, but back in 1848, when our Constitution was passed and we officially became the 30th state in the Union, there was a part of the Constitution that was included in there called the Frugality Clause. It's a part of the Constitution that's never been altered, never been amended. A lot of other things have been changed over time, but this has always remained the same. And it talks about the proper role of government in our life, and it says simply this: moderation and frugality in government leads to freedom and prosperity for our people. Moderation and frugality in government leads to freedom and prosperity for our people. Our founders are pretty smart. And I think as I look around this room and I see many of the faces I visited over the past couple of years, first as a candidate, now as serving as your governor, I understand there's a whole lot of people who live by that mindset all across this state. As your governor, I hope to have the honor to continue to fulfill those words each and every day, the words of our founders and the words that I believe the majority of people in this state live by each and every day. Thank you for that opportunity. Thank you for listening, and thank you for what you're doing to move Wisconsin forward.